Yeah, that's a wedding. It'd be nice.
Oh, sure. No. In the new business section. So there's a couple other things that had a.
I didn't see it.
I didn't either.
She's pushing summer capacity. I'm calling the meeting to order. Please note that we are at capacity in person, so if anybody wants to be on, we're going to have to be online. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. All right, approval of past minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
All in favor, say aye. Passed. Approval on disbursements.
Everything looks good.
Feeling good?
Yep.
Sorry, I think I got you.
That's okay.
I'll make a
I'd
motion
like
to
to have
approve.
it.
disbursements.
Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye. Passed. Public time. Please note that we will offer the opportunity to anyone not listed on our agenda to speak to the council during public time. You will be limited to 3 minutes. No action will be taken on questions or any items on it that isn't on the agenda. So this is how we're going to work this so that you get on the agenda and get more conversation going if that's the way you feel, instead of us not knowing and just keep going with public. All right, is there anyone here that has any public time requests? Anyone online? Anybody? Last call?
Nobody online?
Anybody? Last call?
You're good?
All right, moving on. Maintenance update.
All right, so maintenance works for water and pump stations. We had our monthly water sample was done, monthly NDNR report was done, clean baskets, pulled and unplugged. Sewer pumps for number 1 and 2 at the trailer park. New meters were installed in 70 Lovely and 80 Lovely. Locates were done. Streets and maintenance, plowed and snow removed from snow piles from the cul-de-sac, sanded and salted roads that were needed. Patched some holes in Johnson Avenue. Gave new recycling totes to a resident on David Avenue. Lawn care and landscaping. Baltic Heights, we painted 2 PVC downspouts, connected and installed. And Bird Park, their 2 trees were cut down and removed. Safety and training. Attended a safety training at Brandon. And then I passed the general knowledge and air brake test to obtain my CDL permit.
Awesome.
Flags, we have flags were at half staff in the memory of 500,000 COVID deaths. And that's the completion of my report.
All right. Any questions for maintenance? Okay. Building inspector update. Bill is not here. Do you have that?
I do.
Okay.
First on his update are fee updates. Bill is looking at increasing our water and sewer tapping fees from $500 total to $1,000. They have not been increased in the last 10 years. He would like to look at creating fees for moving buildings and excavation. Second item is policy and procedures for code enforcement. Basically, he just wants to give a PSA to let residents know that code enforcement has become a priority and will be following them as written. Third on his list is the contractor's license applications. He had talked about this in prior meetings and asked that we require contractors in the city of Baltic to obtain a license through us, and we have the testing site at Sioux Falls would be a shared testing, so they wouldn't have to retest with us, or we wouldn't have to redo the testing. We would take Sioux Falls. I'm looking for, I think the application for licenses should be in the
Yeah.
packet.
Application for contractor's
Yes.
license? Yep, I'm looking at
That's
that.
what he would like to be approved.
Okay, so he wants this to be approved to require anybody that's building to have this contractor's license application.
Yes, and that would be, yes, that would be tracking that licensure system at the city office.
Okay. Any discussion on that, council?
How much is the license get?
1 year, it says, please indicate term of license desired and submit payment for desired license. 1 year is $100, 3 years, $150. You have to have a continuous bond in the amount of $20,000 naming the city of Baltic, and proof of liability insurance with single limits of $1 million, and a copy of your South Dakota excise license. Right? Am I missing anything, anybody? That nails it? No discussion? Okay, yep, nope, you're fine. Discuss, look, read, whatever, because I don't think we've seen this yet until today, so.
We approving the code enforcement stuff? You're wondering.
I don't know that it needs to be an approval because they already are ordinances, he's just going to follow them.
It's just a state.
He just wants to follow. He just wants to know that they're following.
Yes, he's not trying to change anything, the timelines are all the same, I don't know.
We should read them all out.
Do you want me to read them out loud and come back to that?
I think.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So my question is, if I am going to replace my deck and I come in to get a building permit, am I now going to be required to have a contractor that's licensed with the city be able to build my deck?
We would have to talk to Bill.
Yeah, I'd have to ask
There's
Bill.
you shouldn't have to.
I don't think you should have to.
I'm just for
No, you're
clarification.
under, there's a,
I don't believe
for lack of a
so.
better term, I'm gonna choose my words wisely here, but there's your family, so to speak, close relative, immediate family and yourself, so to speak, that's you're okay there. It's when you work outside of that realm. You have somebody come in to do it for you, a contractor or a construction. I think then they have to get the,
Right, so I'm not gonna pick on Steve Schmidt, but Steve Schmidt is a local guy that does a lot of work in town.
it'd be a good.
He is now going to be required to have this in
Yes.
order to operate and do work in town.
I would assume if he does, and again, good question for Bill, but just speaking on some, I'm assuming that if he does it commercially, he would be required to.
Yeah.
update.
Yep.
Unless it's immediate relative or family.
I don't even think it will be a
that.
homeowner, that it has to be the person that's doing it, you can't have family member do it.
We'll
Yeah,
get more
this would- this-
information on that.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
would-
we're gonna have to ask Bill. I mean,
They're gonna need today, so, yeah.
Yeah.
I- I don't know if they-
oh, yes, a policy and procedure for code enforcement, just to let everybody know, since that is one of the points that he was making. One, first notice will be sent out within up to 30 days to comply. Second notice will be sent out within 14 days after the first notice compliance date. So after the 30 days, you've got 14 days to comply, and notice given. If not complied with fines and or penalties will be assessed. Third notice will be abatement. Fourth, for grass and weeds, Notice given within 5 days to comply. Second notice and a minimum fine of $40 or $500 per day. 6, snow removal for sidewalks will be sent notice to comply within 48 hours. 7, second notice, fine of $40 and up to $500 per day. 8, push snow into the street. First notice is a warning. Number 9, second notice is fine and or penalty. Those are all the code enforcements that we are going to enforce. They are already in our ordinances, correct? They already exist, so he's just going to start enforcing them. Make sense? Any questions?
We've had complaints in the past and that would be the reason.
Yep.
I have a question.
Yes.
So if the snow, say, looks like it all got pushed out there because it blew in that way and there's a drift, who's to say that, how is he has to actively see somebody do this
Correct.
to be able to enforce?
I would assume so, unless you can absolutely check to see that someone's literally taking a
I
shovel.
feel like
down
that
there.
should be part of
I would have to look at
the
the
ordinance.
ordinance. It very well could be. I don't have the ordinance in front of me.
God.
I'm just reading a list.
Huh?
I got to with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have to look at the ordinance, and we can certainly look at that for you for that one. The ordinance.
I would like to think that
I mean,
take over here.
some people have really
If
crappy
someone's
lots
taking a
and the
snowball.
snow builds up and it's
Right.
terrible.
I think if,
Yeah.
if you're making it blatantly obvious, you're taking your entire
Well, I
driveway.
I completely agree with that. I'm just saying,
I think
there's a lot
there's-
of cul-de-sacs that are crap.
Yeah, and I'm not disagreeing with that. And like I said, I don't have the
If Berg
ordinance.
at the end of my street, you would think he was throwing it all out there, but it's actually the city pushing it all on his.
Right, right. Yeah, and I would have to look at the ordinance. I can't imagine that it would ding someone for that, but I don't know. So, we will definitely look at that ordinance and have that conversation with Bill. Yes, give me 1 second. Yes.
What about Main Street? We have no place to go but onto the street.
Oh, you mean,
Yeah, right out here in front of the Legion.
well, I can't imagine that you get dinged for that.
I think a lot of it's gonna be,
Well, that's what your ordinance just said.
I think it's, a lot of it's gonna be situational. Again,
Again,
I can't speak on behalf of Bill, but.
Who makes that decision?
Right.
What I.
Bill, okay, so the way the ordinance reads,
I
which
don't know
is,
if we want Bill, because if you piss off Bill, then Bill's gonna do whatever the hell he wants.
well, he is our code enforcer, so we don't really have a choice when it comes to that, number one. Number two, like I said, I don't have the code in front of me to be able to reevaluate it and have the council talk about it, change it if it needs to be changed, and vote on it as we need to. But we can certainly look at it. That's, I'm not saying that we can't.
If there's maybe he could appeal, somebody could put an appeal in or something to the city council.
There might be,
If-
there is a process, I assume. Yes, there is a process to appeal if you don't agree with it. Yeah.
And one thing to
And
keep
we'll
in
follow
mind,
that too.
he does have on here, your first notice is a warning. You're not gonna get a ticket right away. Now, if you're doing it over and over again and there's something else going on, then you have to bring that forward. So nothing's gonna happen unless you're continuously doing it, so.
Tracy, can I?
Yes,
So-
please.
And I don't have the ordinance memorized, but the ordinance is it says something along the lines of, you can't take and remove your snow and place it on someone else's property that doesn't belong to you.
Okay.
So that is a consistent, if you look up the townships, if you look up the counties, they have something very similar to that. And that means that if you would take your snow and push it across the street and dump it on your neighbor across the street, that's breaking the ordinance. You can't displace your snow on some property that you do not own.
Okay, so how does that work for the Legion? Because I don't.
Right, I don't know, that's just kind of.
That's something we're gonna have to look into.
Right, yeah.
I'm sure with what's happening on Main Street that it's not going to, we're not gonna,
Right, I'm
but
just
I
saying.
don't know, so I didn't know if you knew that off the top of your head. Thank you, I
So,
appreciate
all the more reason why I think that is a legit
concern.
I would, get in touch with City Hall and just make sure. And per conversation, I have a hard time believing we're not gonna let common sense take over. But
Yes, exactly. Yes. All right. So now back to his application for contractor's license. Do we have to do, does it have to have a first reading, second reading, or is this just, or is this it's on the ordinance, it's just something?
to approve that.
Just to approve it?
And the form.
Okay, do you guys have any discussions on the form and the fee?
I think that the fee makes sense, and especially with the way that Baltic's developing, just to make sure that somebody doesn't come in that, is not is not bonded and covered, and that's where, you know, the city and for the homeowner.
Sure.
But like Mike said, does this mean that anybody, you know, so if you have somebody come in and build a deck, do they have to go down to City Hall and get all of this for $100? So that's where I guess I have questions before making a decision on that.
It's a good question.
I can take
Yes,
that
please.
one a little bit. So where that was coming from a little bit was, we were having, say, decks or the weekend garage party where they were reshingling houses and stuff like that, and then you get people complaining about all the nails in the driveways, all the nails in the streets. It wasn't a lot of issues. I think that's why they're looking at doing it, because if you add that level of responsibility on the person that's actually doing it, it's going to hopefully result in a better product and not have shoddy work like we had with previous building inspectors where we
This
had.
doesn't cover that. I can have everybody in here come over and reshingle my roof and I don't have to get that. This is for contractors
Yes.
specifically, so I don't think it really covered that.
So it only
But if you pull the
new
homeowner's permit.
construction then, or?
It would be more so if I was gonna have somebody come in and, build me a house, yes, or that's where I want more information. If it's just somebody coming in and remodeling a room in my house, rebuilding my deck, whatever, that's where I want more information.
But you can't pull a homeowner's permit and have other people do it for you. That's illegal.
A building permit?
Yes.
homeowner's
If you pull the homeowner's permit and have your friends come in and help you, you could get in trouble with the inspector for that.
Yeah, because everything has to be inspected.
Your husband or somebody else that's immediate family would have to actually do that.
So you couldn't,
No, you can't have friends, if you're pulling a homeowner's permit, you can't have other people come in and do it.
yeah, no, I would.
And what about, can you reread the bonding? To me, the bonding part seemed,
Continue the bond in the amount of $20,000, in the amount of $20,000, naming city of Baldwin as obliged.
I guess I don't know if like Steve Schmidt, does he already have a bond and that's not an issue for him?
Yeah,
We don't have
I
to.
haven't.
If we have questions for Bill, we can table it. And ask him those questions.
I think that'd be the thorough way to do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
we will table that then. And can you write that down that we're gonna table that and we'll ask our question?
I make a motion to table.
Okay, and do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
I,
All opposed? We'll be tabling that until some questions are answered by Bill. Next, city administrator update. Have you,
Okay, so the first thing is I would like to talk about a special camping permit to be allowed for over our maximum current 7-day policy.
Okay.
We got a phone call asking ahead of time for a medical procedure this summer if we could do an extended stay. He knew it was past the 7-day allowance and wanted to ask if we would do an extended stay.
do we know how long the extended stay?
4 weeks.
4 weeks. So he wants a lot, he's clearly gonna pay for it,
Yes,
correct?
Yep,
He just wants to be able to not have to keep moving it every week after the 7 days are up.
and it will be unoccupied for half of that time, actually.
So he's just leaving his camper there.
Yep, and then we'll be staying with family, and then until he's healed enough, and then staying at the camper, so we still have somebody close here in town to help to share them, and then when he's ready to move on. At the end of that extended visit.
And he knows that we are not responsible for accidents with him not being in there for however long he chooses that, okay?
does anybody know the reasoning behind the 7 days? Because is that for maintenance purposes or?
Is that for,
Also,
is that for maintenance purposes, that they can only do 7 days?
Partially, but mostly it's because of in the past, we've had people stay forever and ever and ever.
Okay,
They almost live there, so we want to avoid people staying in one spot for that long.
okay. So on special circumstances, it's clearly
We have in the past.
available and we can if we feel necessary, it's just, okay.
Next thing though,
Okay, thank you.
is, you need to be able to dump your camper and stuff, and so over 4 week span, I mean, maybe he's only staying there for 2 weeks, but what is he gonna do to dump?
But most of their time can be spent at the hospital and just like sleep.
What?
Most time can be spent at the hospital
Okay,
and it's only kind of a place to sleep.
okay, for family?
No,
Just
just
for
one
him
gentleman,
and his
individual,
wife.
just
Okay.
by himself. His
Yeah.
kids live here in town.
And I'm sure they know, we don't have a dump station, so that's why in fact,
Right.
They're aware of what we have.
What we have available, which is not a dump station, right? We don't have much, right?
Brennan, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, were you gonna say something?
I mean, yeah. Just kind of head scratching here. Yeah. Worried about what it kind of opens up because I know we get calls year round and people wanting to stay, and if it was up to them, they'd stay there for
Right.
3-4 weeks at a time. So obviously my heart says this is a no-brainer.
Right.
As long as we know
This is the
where
one
does it
time.
stop? And
Right.
you know how busy that campground is, I guess, is my only fear. What are we opening ourselves up to? Sounds very inconsiderate of me, but it is
Not necessarily.
just, I guess that's the only thing I fear. I don't know how much of an issue it really is, but why did you approve him and not me? Is the conversation I'm trying to avoid here.
I guess, my thoughts are, for a medical emergency situation, just because you want to get her for a whole month, that's different. I mean, you could move somebody else, this person would have to have, he doesn't have the option, but it's for a medical emergency, so that's my thought.
Yeah, no,
You.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I don't, with a medical emergency, I think we should be able to make an exception, but that's my opinion, and I don't vote. So you tell me, you guys want to do.
I mean, I understand just as long as we know what we're opening ourselves up to.
Yeah, as long as we're specific that it's in a medical reason. Is that what you're saying? Yes.
What sort of criteria would you use to prove it's a medical reason, I guess?
It's a good question too. I don't know.
Because I mean, the HIPAA is stuff, anyone can walk up and say, oh yeah, I have a medical emergency.
Right.
Don't ask me what it is.
So then,
It's
like,
almost like
Brennan
water.
said, you are opening it up.
Great.
Yeah, I don't know how much of an issue it really is.
Can we require
What's that?
Can we require not to live there on campus if you're going to have to be in the care of somebody for this amount of time?
Or maybe you
Yeah, that
just,
would be fine with me,
change
as
it.
long as you guys are willing to release it.
or maybe we just make a change that people can apply for special camping permits going forward, and if the situation arises again, then they can bring it forth to city council, and, I mean, if this person's going and jumping through hoops.
Or think about it like planning and zoning, you know, when we approve a variance, we don't approve a variance for the whole city, we approve a variance for that specific individual piece of property for that reason. So
Right.
I think based on, I mean, 2 senses, it's a medical condition, based on what he said, everyone else obviously confirmed that they know who he is, you know. I think, like Brendan said, you're gonna open Pandora's box because if people have to park there year round. So
Yeah, only doing this for a year, I know we've talked about this a few times here, and just as long as we're all aware, then you might be fielding a lot of those questions now. Maybe it isn't an issue, so, yes, I would say let's go for it, we'll have to deal with the consequences if there is any. So I'll make a motion to approve that special camping permit for 4 weeks.
Do we have a second? All in favor, say aye. Approved. Your next thing there, ma'am.
Okay, here's what I've been doing. I've been listening to our COVID update conference calls, they're monthly, our legislative conference calls, they're monthly, planning and zoning meetings as needed. I went to the Board of Equalization meeting a few weeks ago. I attended the Sioux Metro Growth Alliance meeting, formerly Makita Lakita. I've been attending election webinars. Our housing study rough draft has come in and we've had a meeting to discuss that. We are going to do a couple of things and then we'll have a final draft. After that is the creation and update of a comprehensive plan. So that leads us into economic development and our Build Baltic we've been talking about. We were just in a conceptual idea planning stage. Now we're ready to talk about serious, get down to business. Who wants to be involved? What is it going to look like? What do people want for the city of Baltic as far as growth and economic development? There are so many possibilities and we're ready to get started. We set a meeting for March 16th at 7 o'clock here at the Legion. So if anybody is interested in that, they're more than welcome to attend and get any information. It will be hosted in conjunction by City Hall, and Jesse Hunter and Brandon Olson will be here.
Yes,
Will that be on Zoom as well?
I can do
it
that.
can be.
Yes.
I didn't think about that, yeah.
If we're gonna have 14 max.
14 people, yep, okay, we'll zoom that, yeah.
Absolutely, and our Zoom information is always the same to join, regardless if it's a City Hall meeting, a P and Z meeting. This Bill Baltic meeting will also be the same Zoom information. I have been working with Pat at Banner Associates on utility planning, sidewalks, and river park erosion. I also posted an opportunity from Paint South Dakota on our Facebook page. I think it's a great opportunity for some people in Baltic to get together, an organization to nominate a house. The paint is supplied for you. You basically just supply the man hours. That information is posted on our Facebook page, and you can come to the office and pick it up as well. I spoke with Max Excavation again, just to touch base. The Fifth Street Drainage Project, he started and it was put on hold due to weather, and he's still planning on continuing and finishing up as soon as it thaws this spring, as soon as he can get out there. We have been working on preparation of the parks for the summer season. We've conducted employee interviews, and we are researching multiple summer rec opportunities. And next I have Julia's update for
City Hall.
City Hall. She is working on the election. She is getting information from the health pool. She did her CFOG meeting. She has another one March 27th, 2021. And she's still planning the finance officer school that will happen in June.
All right.
I sure can.
And we are moving on to attorney remarks. John has decided to resign as our mayor, our city mayor, and I'll let you go ahead and read that.
City
Our
attorney.
city attorney, the mayor,
Not the mayor.
clearly what I'm thinking. City attorney.
Okay, we have a letter here from Hughes Law Office addressed to Baltic City Council via email only. Dear Council, this letter is my resignation as city attorney, a post I have held since 1996. I believe that the time is right to move on and pursue other opportunities. I do not plan to attend the March and April council meetings, but will be available for traditional assistance as needed and desired. I ask that my resignation be accepted at the March meeting. I wish you and the city all the best in your future activities. Yours very truly, Hughes Law Office, John Hughes.
All right, I need a first and a second to accept his resignation.
We'll make a motion to accept John's resignation as city attorney.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. We have accepted John's resignation. Number 11, business. A, second reading and adoption ordinance of 282, which is the wards and voting precincts, which we read last month. So it's an ordinance amending Title III, Administration, Chapter 34, boundary wards and voting precincts of the revised ordinances of the city of Baltic, South Dakota. So I have to read it. Okay. I need a motion to approve.
Make a motion.
He was just agreeing.
Nope, second reading.
Second reading there. Oh, I don't. It's just second reading, so we're good there. Okay. And next is Grant Park and Phillips Crossing.
Isn't the second reading we adopted? First reading you just
First
read,
reading
second
was
reading you,
Yeah.
Yes,
Second reading.
second reading we adopted. So I do need a first and a second.
yes.
Thank you.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 282.
And a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We accept the second reading and adoption ordinance of 282 about the wards and voting precincts. Next, Grant Park and Phillips Crossing. It is my understanding that the P&Z is recommending a final preliminary plat to be approved, correct?
Correct.
But before we do that, we have to annex in the land, I guess is the best way to do it, because we can't do the one before, because then we're obeying county land, because we haven't annexed in. So, discussion about annexing them in and how we want to do that. Questions?
So right now, we made the choice to annex them and then after that.
Accept the final preliminary.
Then we, yeah, we have to first the annex in, and then we can accept their final preliminary plat that you guys okayed last night at the committee meeting, right? Did you, okay, I understood that right.
Yeah, for both plots.
For both plots, yeah, that's Gray Park and Phillips Crossing,
And Phillips
yes,
Crossing.
yes. And do we have to annex both separately, or can it be one together?
The petition was for both pieces.
For both
in one
pieces, so it's one
So-
petition for both pieces, so
Correct.
whatever we decided,
Correct.
joins both.
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure I understood that correctly.
And one thing, I guess, looking at it from the city standpoint, without us not having an attorney at this time, is this something we should be doing, or should we wait till we have an attorney to make sure we're doing this properly?
Right, I agree with that on the attorney aspect, not that I don't think, the annexing is a bad idea by any means, but the fact we don't have legal representation at this very point in time, I don't know that it's responsible on a city's aspect to approve something like this today without having the lawyers back up, just in case for some reason something would go haywire.
We approve the plat without approving.
No, we have to approve the annexation first, because if we approve the plat, then we're approving county land, not city land.
But we-
That's why I understand it.
That's what I'm saying, can we approve the annexation before? So can we approve the annexation and not the plat?
Yes.
Yes,
See, this is, I guess, where
So my point is that, I guess,
yes.
we need,
I don't
Can we
know.
speak up just a little bit so everyone?
Yeah, he asked if we could approve the annexation, but not approve the recommendation from P and Z to approve the final preliminary plat. I gotta make sure it's there. Yes, we can, yes.
Still don't have agreement on how you're gonna drain that water out of there. We're supposed to have a meeting, so I don't know how you can prove an annexation when you don't have an idea on how you're gonna get the water out of there.
But
That meeting hasn't happened yet,
well, that,
because right now you got one of the landowners hasn't agreed.
well, I guess that's why I think, to my understanding, I'm taking it as, I'd love to be corrected by anybody in the room. I feel like you can approve the annexation in that aspect.
So you're without water coming across and you don't have the landowners. approved.
That's why we said the annexation, not necessarily the plat. That's why I was asking that question, if that makes sense, and I'd love to hear you.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, when we annex the land, that means we're taking it on as a city piece. Not that we're approving what is happening with engineering and draining and all of that. And then approving the plat, the preliminary plat, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, approving the plat that you guys are suggesting by P and Z, that's when we can start having that conversation. That's when it makes a difference on drainage and all of that, right?
Go ahead, okay, I'll jump in on
It's
it.
not gonna.
I have a question. You had your legal counsel resign, prove that, now you're sitting here without any legal representation. And that's.
That's what was just brought up.
That's what we're discussing,
You have to get your legal representation representing the city.
And that's the discussion now, as far as, that's why I'm asking.
We're trying to understand it as well, so that when we do get representation, we can move on it and not take a long time.
Right, but I don't think you want to prove an annexation before you have your legal.
That's what we're discussing.
That's the point I was trying to make.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to figure out.
Probably hard to hear us in the back, sorry about that. Right. Got these mufflers on, so sorry about that.
Sure.
Let's hear what you had to say.
Yes, please.
So when I went through and read this, sorry, I gotta take the damn thing off. When I went through and read this, the concern, like Dave's concern right now is water. I called and spoke with the county. City is annexing the land north of Dave's property, south of Sixth Street. That's the only part that the city is responsible for. We have due diligence from the engineers and the developers that they're going to do the work, job that they do and work the water issue that's the concerns that he has there. We can't prove a plat without the annexation. We also can't do the annexation without the plat either. So it's kind of a double-edged sword where you're sitting.
Right.
Regardless, it's not going to stop work because they technically still own the land and they can do with it as they please.
Right.
So it's not gonna slow anything down. It's just,
That was my next question. Thank you for answering that. That was my
Yes,
next
thank you.
question. I just trying to be understanding here too about what show up, right? I mean, that's trying to be considerate too. I just hope you understand that we're trying to cross T's and dot I's here. Can we hold
Well, but, yeah, before we go any further though, I mean, we've been talking with the city about this for, what are we on now, 6, 7 months, something like that? And Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't the city attorney already look at that?
Yes.
Yeah, unfortunately, and this is just me trying to think correctly, those conversations were done, but it was never done here to get a yes on writing in for public knowledge on the books. Does that make sense? So we didn't stand here and have that conversation with John, for John to say yes in a council meeting. So it was done, I don't want to say behind doors, because that's not right either, but in a meeting to put it in writing in our paperwork, unfortunately, or fortunately. I don't, and I actually called John to ask him, how this works, and he just keeps telling me he'd get back to me, and so he keeps putting me off. So, I will say in executive session, we are discussing attorneys that we have interviewed. I don't foresee a whole lot of holding this up, and when we do hire an attorney, I would think that we could do a special session to get this annexed in and get started so that we're not holding you guys up. But again, I don't get to make the decision, council does, but that's kind of the thought process that I had with it and the conversations I've been having. But again, I don't vote, they do, so you guys tell me.
And I know, being on PNC, you guys are following every rule, law in Baltic, and we know all of that. I guess the biggest thing for us, being all pretty new to council too, is we don't want to get ourselves into any sort of legal bind or not do it the correct way, or without maybe even just some advice, or I don't know. I think it's tough on our end with a lot of change lately, and so it's really hard to make sure that we are doing everything properly. And I know you're frustrated, and I don't blame you for being frustrated. It's been a whirlwind.
In a month.
In the last, 6 months.
Yes.
And just as a thought, one thing that has happened in situations like this in the past, if you're comfortable, knowing that there has been some work done and all this discussion, you could potentially make an approval contingent on an attorney, concurring.
Sure.
So then that could happen prior to another meeting, and additionally, as far as transparency goes and checks and balances and all that, just approving the final preliminary plat is not the last step. It's basically the first step.
Right.
The city still gets to look at, approve final plans.
Right.
You still get to look at, approve final plat before any houses could be built, before anything can really officially be sold.
Right.
I mean, that's their motivation to follow the rules is,
Sure.
this is the beginning, not the end.
Right, totally, and that's not
So-
disagree. So,
But just a couple thoughts, not that you,
so there's 3 ways we can look at it. 1, we can approve it and just move forward. 2, we can approve it with contingency upon hiring a lawyer and the lawyer looking at it and giving approval. Or 3, we can table it until we can have that lawyer look at it and we hire a lawyer and give approval. Special session, basically.
I have a question.
Yes,
Okay, so say that you vote and you are approving annexation of the land. Is there a process that allows people to object that?
I think there's a 20-day,
that people,
yeah, it has to be posted, there's a 20-day, I forget what they call it.
referral period.
Referral, thank you, that they can contest it, correct, I believe? If someone feels that our choice, or the city's choice to annex it in, or the council's choice to annex that in is not what they want. Yes,
It's not stopping them, right?
no, they can do whatever they want to with their land.
So they've already been after it for 6 months, right? 8 months? What's another month for you guys to find an attorney and make sure everything's up to up and that the city gets what they're supposed to get?
Because right now, it sounds like
what he's pushing for is, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is for permission, right?
No, I disagree with that completely, but that's not at all what we're asking for, forgiveness, that's horrible.
What I mean, what that is you're saying, go ahead, just keep going, keep going, keep going. And then, once it's kind of going, we're gonna say, well, what do you think? That's what that sounded like.
I guess to put thoughts to it, I mean, by special session, I mean, we would like, personally, I would like to
No,
see.
I agree with having a
within-
special session.
Well, but I guess within days, I guess, so if you're really arguing the fact that these guys wanna get work done in the next 2 days, and that's what we're gonna, I guess, sure.
I'm just saying, just do it directly.
Right, but I mean, you're asking for forgiveness, that's not at all.
Not at all.
But there's also gonna be a delay with the annexation process as well. So if you approve it on a contingency, waiting to talk to an attorney, they can't do anything until that process is done anyway. You know what I mean? They can't, it's not like they're gonna go build a house, as Banner said, you can't, this is just preliminary. So there's still steps to get to these steps, but, if it snows tonight, there's gonna be different issues. I mean, there's other things that have to happen to get this done. So I agree with what you're saying completely. And we have done before on different things where you approve things on contingencies because we don't get together every week like Sioux Falls. And barring anything ridiculously large, as you said, John did talk about it at great lengths. Everybody was there for those meetings. Nothing was glaring, nothing was egregious. We've looked at the plats, everything in our book, it follows everything to a T. I guess I would say approve it on contingency, but again,
That's where I guess I would go more so is with the contingency, just so that we know our lawyer can still, look it over, but then we're also not holding them. I mean, either way, we're not holding them back, but we don't always have time in all of our schedules to come and meet in a couple of days or in 3, whatever it is. So I guess I go with the contingency of us getting a lawyer and him being able to look at it.
Obviously, the time factor, it's gonna be as soon as we can get an attorney, because we don't want to be sitting here without an attorney for any length of time whatsoever. So obviously, the time process is gonna be as short as we can physically make it to make the right hire to keep these processes going. Not having an attorney with this much of a project at our plates is not really ideal. So, yeah, like I said, we're gonna try and do this in a timely fashion. As far as being contingent, I'm not opposed to that at all. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's where I stand on it for the most part.
Again, I like everyone's input. I mean, I would like to think that's true. I think that's a great point. I don't know. I haven't personally looked into this. That's why I'd love to take, I hold Chris Dreher's word with heavy weight, don't get me wrong. I personally don't know. I don't know the nuances of it. Again, John is cold shouldering the situation.
Yes, very much so, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would have had, I would be able to do what I do differently, but I don't know if I do that.
Right. But yeah, I guess I just don't want to pay for a mistake, but yeah.
Well, I need a motion to do whatever you guys want to do, and I need a second.
If we set a contingent date, we're gonna absolutely have to have a lawyer hired by
Yes.
that date with time to look it over in a very timely.
Well, we are
manner.
looking at one, we are looking at choosing one tonight. However, the caveat would be that he or she accepts it and then they're available for whatever date we set. Just so you're aware of that. And they have to accept it, so we could choose one and then they could have decided, no, they don't, and then we have to go back to the drawing board, but we did interview 3, so we could do, this is our first, this is our second, this is our third contingent on who accepts, but,
You can write your contingency though with any specifications of what you're gonna work for. You can approve it pending hiring of an attorney, all the contingencies you wanna write in, you can, and you just have to abide by the contingencies. I just don't see why there's a reason to hold it up anymore.
I don't.
I mean, it's been months and you have professional engineers, you have professional business owners and I just can't understand why we hold it up longer without specific contingencies, and do you feel better about that?
As far as the contingent date list, right, yeah, again, I could put my 2 cents down on exactly how I vote on this thing right now, it's just legal representation, that's literally all it comes down to. But, so what, as far as contingencies, you were saying, as far as the contingent date goes, I mean, obviously we want to get a lawyer hired ASAP. So you were saying we can hold, as far as contingency, could you do contingent on a lawyer's approval, basically hiring approval? And if no lawyer would be present, then we hold the right to annex, or to approve or vote nay, basically, at that. If no legal representation is present or available to the city by, I don't know, whatever you guys think on a date, you guys have, especially you two, you guys have been a part of the PNC. I mean, this is what it's all about right here, I guess is what I'm saying.
Based on the lawyers that the lawyers that we interviewed, I don't foresee a problem, one of them not accepting right away.
Yeah.
But I guess I didn't ask if they're on vacation, so I mean, you know. since it is
Do
what-
the attorneys that you interviewed, do they have, city experience, do they have?
Yes, yes,
Very much so.
all 3 of them do. They were actually all suggested to us by Lakita Makita, which is not what it's called anymore, I forget what it's called, but yeah,
I think we're-
we got.
Metro Growth Area. Alliance.
Yes, Sioux Metro. So, those were the suggestions we had when we interviewed them, knowing, what other cities they represent, what those cities have gone through to see if it's the same as what we're doing and all of that. So yes, all 3 of them do have that.
Can I
Yes,
just ask a question about, during his resignation letter, he stated something about he'd be available.
Available.
Yeah,
he did.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so is there, so I don't know if are his duties ended today?
I guess we did
Just
technically
did.
accept
Yes,
his
Yeah,
resignation,
we
so,
accepted his
Wow.
resignation dated.
I
but
mean, is there anybody else in that office that,
it's just.
It's just him.
He owns, John
his.
Hughes.
Okay.
I had thought that same thing, actually, is that could we get him to come on and say, enough, hire him for a consult, you know, again,
an hourly rate?
not exactly.
2 or 3 hours a week?
Again, just not reaching back. Agreed. Would be
So
agreed,
you
yeah.
can put in, if you wanted to, your
Your
contingency.
contingency, what could we put John Hughes in with the contingency?
If we weren't able to hire the attorney that you would select.
Without legal,
Yep,
yes,
so give
John.
it John a possibility.
right.
And we would accept John if you would give that.
Reach out to John. I don't know how you guys wanna work that. But I like it.
I don't know how to work it.
Do you wanna list your contingencies?
So,
Contingent on the hiring or approval of the hiring and or approval. I think we're all on the same boat.
yeah,
Or reviewed by Mr. Hughes.
Okay. Right? Approval for or. If,
The attorney we hired or John.
approval.
Now, as far as the date goes,
So we can,
I would say maybe Friday. I can't imagine that
yeah.
we couldn't get an answer from
But let's
one
give
of
it a
the
little bit
3.
longer because.
so we would need to come to public time just to announce, because we would.
Yes, we have to announce to
We
our
would,
attorneys.
we would approve upon those contingencies, so
Right.
therefore, as long as we get a legal representation to say go for it,
Yes,
we have to come into session to say he approved it. But literally, that's it, we wouldn't have any voting in that session, because we just approved it here. These are
Right.
contingencies,
correct.
is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So the sooner we can get a lawyer
The
involved.
sooner we can get a lawyer, the faster we can approve.
And then is that correct? We would have to announce a 24-hour in advance, here's a
Post
meeting,
the agenda.
call the, post the agenda, call the meeting, voice with his or
Who were,
her opinion,
that they had accepted.
findings,
Yep.
and meetings.
Yeah, which we could easily do within the next 2 to 3 days.
So you would make the motion to approve the annexation With the
Contingent upon.
contingency that it is reviewed and approved by the city attorney.
Yes.
The hired city engineer. As soon as we get that stamp, we can put a 24-hour notice to bring it to public time. As soon as that 24 hours is hit, literally a meeting would come into session to say yay or nay, and then meeting adjourned. And at that point, it would.
How does that plat work into this then?
So we would have to approve.
Approvable.
Approvable.
We would have to approve both.
So after the annexation was approved or denied, then you would move forward appropriately for the approval of the final preliminary plat.
Since we'd be in session, we could approve.
We can be in
the plat
session, we
and
can
then-
do all, we can boom them.
No, we have to approve both at the same time, like tonight, right?
Correct.
Yes. we
Oh,
would
so
have
they
to-
both
we
are
would have to
contingency
approve-
together
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
we would have to approve the annexation.
and the
plat.
preliminary plat. Based
And
on,
again, I'm saying vote how you may, but just, we would have to approve it contingent on the fact that the lawyer hired and given their approval or reviewed and approved by John Hughes. Is that, you okay with that? Okay.
I mean, yeah, I mean, your guys' call, right? I just need a motion and a second on whatever you guys decide to do.
So we're gonna approve this without the downstream agreement.
That's why we're getting a lawyer, that's why it's part of the, we wanna make sure everything is.
That's part of the contingency, because that meeting hasn't happened.
I'm under the impression there's more hoops to jump here yet.
Precisely why we want a lawyer. It's part of it. There's things that we don't have answers to.
Chris, you already explained this, correct?
Correct.
This is what, yes.
Yes, unfortunately, it's, the land that they're annexing is the only thing that's responsibility of the city. Everything else that is on the agreements that they make,
Right.
has nothing to do with the city.
Correct. So I will make a motion to approve the annexation and the plat. Is that the plat?
Yep,
Preliminary plat. Pending hired lawyer's approval or reviewed by John Hughes for his approval. Then should we list a date? I don't know that we have to.
I don't know that we have to, we just can do it as soon as
Okay, do you
possible.
know? I don't think we
Don't,
need a date.
it's your contingency until you can write it how you want.
Right, but I'm saying, do we have to list a, I think having a date, just have a date by. Yeah.
By Monday,
30
I
days.
can't imagine that we couldn't get it done
30
tomorrow,
Or,
15 days.
with 24 days of approval, I guess, sure.
Just pull 24 hours.
Well, it should be, I would sure hope we get moving in that amount of time.
Well,
24
yeah.
days.
Okay,
Within 24
Within
days.
24 days
days.
of today's date.
24 days, today, March 9th.
I will second that.
You'll second that motion, I have a first and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It is passed. We will hopefully get
Pending
that to you.
approval.
Yeah.
Thanks
All
for everyone's
right,
input.
so that gives us to executive session. I appreciate all of your time. Have any questions, please call the city hall office. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, welcome. Hey, Andy. Some,
No, it's just, I can't explain to you how bad it is.